Hello and welcome to For Fox's Sake. Welcome to the big show with Pete Selby. And we have James and we have Joe in company because we need all the company we can get at this time. Welcome to the big show. And we're talking all things Leicester. We're talking all things Leicester down on the south coast. It's called Devils and Saints, Saints and Devils. We were certainly the Devils. They were the Saints. A real horror show for Leicester on the south coast. Welcome if you're watching live. Make sure you do comment throughout the course of the episode and we'll read them out if they're readable, that is, after that display. And if you're listening via Spotify and also via Apple, then a very good evening to you. We'll have the preview coming up this week for Leicester's next game, and also we'll have the Champions episode released sometime this coming weekend as well, around about the same time as Vardy 10 years ago hitting that famous goal against Manchester United for the consecutive games record. Now, first thing we need to mention on the big show is the big competition. Now, if you are watching, then do make sure that you have liked and subscribed. Make sure you've subscribed to our YouTube channel. Why? Because one reason is you never miss a show and you've subscribed to For Fox's Sake. It's really, really simple. And also it's completely free on YouTube. And why else? Because we have this. We have our fantastic Christmas giveaway as well. Win a Leicester City shirt of your choice. And that includes the retro shirts as well. So if you don't like the current shirts, you can have a retro shirt if you so desire. And if you want one for the kids, then you can have the kids, a whole kid if you like. Now, simply follow For Fox's Sake on our YouTube channel. And that's it. That's all you'd have to do. And once you've entered, once you've followed us, now, if you've got an account, if your wife's got an account, your husband's got an account, then you can each of you subscribe, and it means you've entered so many times. We'll do the draw live on the 9th of December, and then whoever wins will get in contact and basically sort it out. What do you want, etc. And we'll go and do that for you. So that's the Christmas giveaway, a Leicester City shirt of your choice, etc., etc. Do make sure you enter. And again, it's for every single person who's subscribed to our new YouTube channel. Okay, that's the homework to one side. That's the bits and bobs to one side. Now, where do we start, chaps? Where do we start? James, now I will let you two run with this for a little while because I've got plenty to say. Now, many listeners and viewers will know that I sports broadcaster, football commentator, etc. But also I do work for Southampton, so I have one step in the opposition's camp. Now, we didn't have time to do a preview show, so that's a bit of a shame because I would have said a few things about the recent form of Southampton. So I'm going to let you two just run away with things for a bit, Leicester-wise, and then I will come in and give my 2 pence worth on Southampton. I'm not saying I'm going to put out any Leicester fires with my Southampton hose. I don't know what that was referring to or how what I was doing there, but you get my drift. I'm not going to say that it was Leicester not as bad as they were and Southampton actually really, really good. Kind of. But you two can wax lyrical about how bad Leicester were for now. James, take it away. Get it off your chest. You'll feel a lot better.
Well, I thought that the worst sporting performance I was going to see this week was in Perth. If anyone watches and follows the Ashes,
to make us feel better.
Yeah, I mean that was a bleak morning. Walking to work in the rain, listening to. There we are.
For 6 of them, watching, please. Six of them.
Pete's got a cricket ball, so walking to work in the rain, listening to Aggers say Australia need 1 run to win, and they've got 3 days to do it. You thought that was going to be the bleakest thing this week, but it was pretty tragic. Yesterday, I think our transfer activity is being exposed in the way that our first team squad is quite threadbare in that our performances are wildly inconsistent. Even when we win, there's only been 1 or 2 games this season where we've looked coherent, where we've played actually quite well in a win. And it's the same players played in those games as in the 80% of games where we're playing bad. There's no real ability for squad rotation So it doesn't matter how bad these players play. The reason they're in the team is because there's no senior players to replace them. And obviously Marty, because he's under so much pressure, we might sit here and say, well, just start some of the academy players. It's obviously very easy for us to say that, but at some point, something has got to give, because clearly this team and these players, as they are being presented now, or as Marty is, the tactics that he's using, it's not working. We're 17 games in now, and out of those 17 games, this group of players have played well. What, 2-3 times, maybe? The rest of the time, it's either been middling or really bad. So if we continue playing these same players in the same way, what's happening now will not change.
But don't worry, Joe, because we're giving away a Leicester City shirt on the 9th of December. No, Joe, go on then. Again, get it off your chest. The floor is yours.
I'm not sure I've got that much to say other than crap and utter fright, really. And it's more of the same. It just turns into an absolute moan fest, doesn't it, really? But the fact of the matter is that we haven't seen a good performance for, I don't know, 2 years, ever since we went up to the Premier League. And I don't know, there's just something that hits different about losing to Southampton like that really brings it home, because Southampton are the team that we like to beat for fun. I've got a Southampton supporting mate. It's been always the same. Every time we play them, I sort of end up texting him saying, "Unlucky, mate." Luckily, he's got a better temper than me. Put it like that. So he's pretty good at saying, "Oh well, you know, always happy to be a good match." This wasn't a good match. We were absolutely against the ropes as soon as the whistle went. Me and the lads sat down. We were really happy. Tuesday night, lovely stuff. 8 o'clock on the telly. Very glad I didn't drive down to it. I'm driving to Bristol in a couple of weeks. I expect now I'm expecting a similar result. I'm taking both of the kids up there. I wouldn't be surprised if that was a similar bloody shit show as well. I mean, it's just like James says, it's just, I don't have to tell anyone. We all know it. We've been watching this sort of thing for a long time now, and it's more of the same. I mean, well, were we all thinking that we might get a win? Yeah, of course we were. I don't want to get into the football without thinking that we can win a match. We can always beat Southampton, but they look great. They look great in the first half. Aluko with, here's your cliche, a nightmare debut. He got sold short by Fatawu. There's plenty of like little niggles that we can talk about, but the fact is that they had us on the ropes right from the start, and they showed us. I mean, who knew that they were going to turn into prime Barcelona a couple of weeks ago? But apparently they have, by bringing up some random under-21s coach that, you know, which is what I was saying on the preview last time. We should be thinking about these kind of interesting young guys, forward-thinking guys. That's another point. But I guess if I'm going to summarize this little rant, it sort of signals all the things that have sort of gone wrong a bit, really. And even a club like Southampton that's done similar things to us, they've managed to turn it around. And I think we all know now that Marty's not doing anything interesting. He's more of the same, more of this bland football that we've been playing for a long time. And until he goes, these players go, I'm afraid that it's just going to be this sort of conversation every time.
Well, welcome, Jono. During recording, this is a new for Fox's sake. So Jono Towers enters the room of misery. We're all friends here, Jono. So don't worry, we're all friends here. I'm just going to give my 2 pence worth here because again, I do work for Southampton, do commentary on them, and the one thing I think part of what James was saying, you can answer with Southampton. First of all, we've got Michael saying Southampton got their own back. Yes, and most people blame Luke Thomas, and that shows how wrong they are. Well, it could have been 4 or 5 maybe with Luke. Who knows? Who knows? But I get your point. The one thing with Southampton, James, you mentioned the fact that it brings our transfer activity or lack of it into light. Well, if you look at that Southampton side, if I was to say the standout players, okay, the defenders scored the goals, etc. But I would turn around and say their centre midfielder, Yanda. And then you've got the 3 in front of him. You've got Fellows on one side, you've got Azaz, and you've got especially Leo Cienza on the left. Those 4 players all came into the club in the summer. So there's your new Southampton. And those 4 really ran the show. The defence really didn't have a lot to do. Harvey Ellis came through and scored a couple of goals with headers. We'll come on to the actual goals themselves and how they scored. But that shows you that Southampton obviously sold a lot of players in the summer and they brought in and spent quite a bit. You're right, Joe, as well. Since Will Still's gone, I mean, the under-21 coach must have just been standing there for essentially the season until the last few games going, oh, like wanting to say something can change things because instantly everyone has just, the handbrake has been taken off there at Southampton and these players have flourished. They absolutely battered Charlton at the weekend. They were 5-1 up at half time. It could have been 8 or 9. It really could have been. The one thing they have got is an intelligent centre forward and hold the ball up, as we saw with the breakaway goal and then play a through ball in Armstrong as well. So they've got the perfect forward for what they have then in behind. And they are flying and they're playing the best football in the Championship. I know Coventry are scoring 1 million goals and they're way at the top, but I'm looking at second place, etc. And I would put down Southampton as the team to finish second. I really would. This is a train that is really motoring now. Their defence will always concede goals. You look at their back line and it's the same back line as was in the Premier League. Bazuna in goal is acrobatic. We saw that with the excellent James header. But yes, Southampton are flying. And the problem with not doing the preview is that the one player I wanted to talk about a lot, and I am going to go out on a limb and say he's the best player in the Championship right now, and I'd say by quite a long way, and that's Leo Cienza. He really is. The one thing he didn't do at the start of the season is score. His shooting boots were not on, but you could see that there was a player there. Now he's running past players for fun. He's finishing lovely through ball for the goal for Azaz, who's all of a sudden turned into a player. He's been really disappointing this season, and now look at him. And they battered us. The one thing I would say for Leicester, it could have been a lot worse. A lot worse. When they scored the 3rd goal, Jono, they ran back to the halfway line in the style of Leicester in the second half in the 9-0. They ran back and all of a sudden I was looking and I was working at the time, as you all know, because it was in the WhatsApp group. And I asked my producer at the time, I was like, how many players were in the squads for that 9-0 that were in the squads in this game? There's a bit of a question. Think about that. Who was in the Southampton squad and who was in the Leicester squad? And whether it has any effect. Vestergaard was obviously in their side. Yeah, there was a few. I'll answer that in a second. But there was a few, Jono. But even though virtually all the players were not involved in that game, I think there was an element of, hang on, we've got Leicester really on the ropes here and we can score, we can batter them here. And if it wasn't for Begovic, who I think ultimately played well, made one amazing save. That was a stunning save in the first half. And for a little bit of luck as well, that Leicester in the early stages of the second half, as a unit, and you don't say this often in football, and you don't see it often in football. My mind got taken back today to it happened against Bolton at home when we lost 5-0 on the opening day of the season in 2002. Yeah, when the 4th goal went in, and they collapsed as a unit. And when I mean collapsed as a unit, everyone automatically almost stands still. They forget where they're playing, and all of a sudden you look around and go, the entire team has just collapsed here, and they're going to run riots. And it only lasts for maybe a minute or two, and that happened at the start of the second half. And I was really concerned, because if they scored a fourth, it could have been up to 9 by then. And then somehow, by look or by crook, Leicester kind of got away with it. So I'm not saying it's a good thing it was 3-0, but I'm amazed it was. So I'm just going to say that Southampton, in my opinion, right now, along with Coventry, are the best side in the Championship. I know they've won 4 on the bounce, and it's not a reaction to one game. Honestly, they've been that good. They've literally just flipped like that. And they'll take teams apart. And I wouldn't be surprised if, when we won the league, remember Southampton went on a record, I think it was 21, 22 games unbeaten. I would not be surprised if they get into double figures on the bounce. Honestly, that's how good I thought they were. That being said, Leicester were awful, Jono. Go on, Em. Say your piece. You'll feel better after. Joe feels a lot better. His shoulders are gone down now. And James, there's less steam coming out of his ears. Jono, take the floor.
Yeah, I'm sick and tired of this tippy-tappy nonsense. Marty needs to play to the strengths of our team and the strengths of our players. Not to mention, we can't defend. The Fass and Vestergaard horror show continues. As soon as Ben Nelson comes back, he has to be a shoo-in to get back in. Left back is an absolute disgrace that we're in this position, that we've got no decent right backs, or left backs, I should say. Yeah, they took us apart, and we deserve to get thumped much, much more than we did. I think they took their foot off the gas in the second half, frankly, and we got away with one. I think ultimately it all boiled down to the fact that we spanked them twice the season before last, wasn't it? When we were in the Championship, and a few of the players were probably still in the squad that when Fatawu took them apart last season, was it? As well.
Yes.
So to a certain extent, I think that they were trying to put one back on us, to be honest, and get one back on us, to be honest. And so they were up for it and motivated, and we weren't. And that's been the bottom line throughout the season, is that we just sort of meander into games, don't really get started, and yeah, just get outplayed by mediocre sides, let alone the likes of Southampton, who are a good outfit. And I hate to say it, but what they've done with their management, shipped out a manager who's playing tippy-tappy nonsense, trying to be wedded to a philosophy that is just not suited to this level of football and not suited to the squad that we've got. Whether it's under the directorship of the powers a bit above Rudkin and whatnot, I don't know, but we just need to start playing football much more quickly, higher tempo, and to the strengths of the team that we've got. If we're going to play Daka up front, then let's play on the break. Let's play it with a little bit more pace.
Well, let's play it a bit more like Southampton, because that's exactly what they did. It's exactly what they did.
And look what they've done over the period of the last 4 or 5 games. And I haven't been as clued up on Southampton as you have, I know, Pete, but now I've seen and witnessed what they're doing, having shipped a manager that's been basically wedded to the same sort of style of football that Marty is trying to do, and now playing to the strengths of the players that he's got, and he's getting results at this level. And I feel like we probably should be going in the same direction, frankly. Either Marty needs to wake up and try something absolutely radical and something different, and like I say, play to the strengths of the players that he's got, or we need to let him go and we need to get someone in that will do that. And I'm getting to the point where I'm not seeing what Marty is actually trying to do anymore. I think that the last 2 victories against Norwich papered over the cracks. Ultimately, we were shocking against Norwich, and they are a shocking side, and we should have gone there and really put our authority onto that game and probably beat them comfortably, but we got away with it, luckily. And then the game after that, we played a little bit better, and we thought, well, maybe things are going to turn, but they're not. They're just not. They're papering over cracks, and ultimately, I'm getting to the point where I think it's time up for Marty. I think I'd give him until Christmas, to be honest, and give him an ultimatum and say, look, start getting some performances going and start getting some results. We've got a decent squad here. Let's start playing to their strengths and then see where we go. But I don't think he's got it in him. I think he's a one-trick pony manager. And ultimately, I think his time is slowly going to be wound up, frankly. I think who knows what's going to happen with the director of football position. Hopefully they get someone in relatively
Technical director.
or whatever it is. But whenever Rudkin moves aside and they get someone else in, I'm hoping that some sense will come to the footballing director's side of things and start imposing a style of play. And yes, Nets have an identity, but Nets also play to the strengths of the squad we've got until we can get players in and we get to the level where we can impose a bit more of a style that we did in the Premier League. At the moment, we're just not going to succeed at this level playing like this.
I think when it comes to individuals, now obviously individuals can have their own form and individuals can have their own relationship, etc., with the manager. But I always look at a side and go, you can almost tell how happy a squad is, how happy a side is, how comfortable they are in a system by the creative players and the flair players. And if they're working, if that's working and coming off, then it means the rest of their side is, because they're ultimately being put in the position to give the flair players, the most creative players, the best players, the ability to do that, the space to do that, the system to give them the ball in the right place. You look at Southampton, for example, and you've got someone like Azaz, who's been very poor all season. All of a sudden, in the last 4 games, he's burst into life, he's given more space, and he's playing well. You look at Fellows out wide. Again, I think it's been quite disappointing all season. All of a sudden now, every time he gets the ball, what does he do? He runs at a player, goes on the outside, does a step over, and then pulls the ball back or crosses. And that's where a lot of the goals have come from. And then look on the other side, Leo Cienza, right now, he's the best player in the league. And those 3 have been given the space because what are they doing? They're sitting back. They've got a fairly solid back line, a little bit limited, you'd say, and they'll always give away goals. But what they will do, they will break, and they will break and score goals. They've got the intelligent centre forward. And then you look at Leicester, and you look at our best player, our fair player, and Fatawu, he's hardly done anything for half a dozen matches now. He's been really, really poor. So what is going on there? And you look at that side of the field, and then you look at the fullback, Aluko. Ultimately, we all feel sorry for what a terrible debut it was for him. But also, I would question. Now, it could have been him. He could have been just way over the top with his positioning, etc. But I would look at Southampton and say, and I listened to the BBC Radio Leicester, and afterwards they were talking, and Matt Heath was talking, and he mentioned it very slightly, but he mentioned about the fact that because Southampton have got a new manager or a temporary manager in, have Leicester. He kind of implied that Leicester probably haven't watched Southampton closely and realised that they've changed their style of play. Because why I would never, against Southampton, the one thing I wouldn't do is have the fullbacks push up, because they've got wingers who will basically outpace them and can put them in trouble, push the ball in behind, and you're going to be in trouble. I would say to Leicester, sit back slightly, soak up the pressure, and then go forward. Do what Southampton did. I would not tell a young 18-year-old on debut to be going forward at all. And yet what happened with the 2 yellow cards? Caught out of possession, brings the guy down from behind. And then the second yellow card, ball gets played out towards the halfway line. And straight away, he's on the halfway line. Fellows runs in behind, drag back, yellow card, and you're off. Why he wasn't 20 yards further back and say, you can play there. You can do your stuff there. There was a Leicester midfielder involved in that move anyway. You run at me, because that's what we know Tom Fellows will do. And that's what was frustrating. And it was interesting, Matt Heath saying that, because I was like, hang on, you're implying that. I know you're not going to say it because you don't want to say something maybe controversial, but that was quite an interesting quote. And I agree. I think it's a little bit of Southampton playing very well. And Leicester, the first 10 minutes, they did look dangerous. Mavididi out wide, but overall, it was shocking. And you then look at what happens on the bench, and you look at the manager, and you look at the backroom staff, and you think, do we have our own Tonda Eckert who's standing there behind? Is Andy King standing there going, do you know what? I would play completely a different system. And ultimately, if that's the case, then changes need to be made. Now, whether at Southampton it was the case that they knew that Tonda was going to do this and they've given him the chance, or whether it's a little bit of fortune, I would probably say maybe a little bit of fortune that they've done this, but it's ultimately worked. He doesn't say anything on the touchline. He stands there watching. And I just wonder whether Top's looking down on the South Coast going, fancy a bit of that? I wonder if Andy King can do that. I wonder if there's a knock at the door at Seagrave saying, what would you do, Andy, slightly different to this side? What would you do? And he turns around and he says, well, first of all, I would do this, this, and this. And you never know. That change could be made. James, what do you reckon?
Well, I mean, as we're a podcast, I think we should support our fellow podcasters, and we should just get like the trio with Mick McCarthy, Tony Pulis, and Big Sam in, like the podcast 3. They'll come and save us.
I think
three co-managers.
I think we can do that. I think we can do that. We can have you James. You can be the tactician inside. You can be the person. You can do the program notes first of all. You can write the program notes, and you can work the tactics board. Okay, Jono. Now, Jono, you can do the talk. You can tell the players throughout the course of the week. Tell them what's what, and you can give those instructions. Okay, I will do the emotional speech beforehand. I will do a Martin O'Neill, and I'll stand there in silence and not say anything for about 3 minutes. And just before they go out, I'm going to go around each person, kiss their forehead, and tell them that they are Pele reborn, and they're going to run through a wall for me. And Joe, once you come out the bar, you'll realize the game's kicked off, and I want you on the touchline like an absolute maniac. I don't want you saying anything to our players, Joe. I want you disrupting the opposition bench. I want you jumping in on their assistant manager. I want not fighting, but doing everything. But I want you squirting water bottles at the opposition. That's what I want from you.
Get me on the pitch to kick the shit out of the opposite team. That's all I'm good for.
Well, there's that as well. There's that, but there we go. So I think that's what we would do. But I wonder if a change will be made. That being said, and you mentioned it, James, with the squad that we've got, we don't have that option. And also, when you look at what happened at the end with Samari and Jordan Ayew, we got Skip at left back. Now we know, and we've all said that James should be alongside Winks in midfield, and then the number 10 in a number 10 position. Now, Skip came in and he did all right against Stoke, and you can understand going down Southampton, him being there, but they just played completely around him. And the one player on the field, I think that makes the most, it gives an impression of the game the most, and that's their defensive midfielder. And Finn Downs, I hardly really saw in the game because he didn't have to do an awful lot. And yet our defensive midfielders were absolutely ragged, and I think that shows you the balance of the game. It's a huge question mark over Marty for me now, and it really is. Now, obviously, we're missing quite a few players, James. I'm not going to just turn around and say, like, what would you do for the next game? But you put your hat on. You're the number 2. You're the assistant manager right now. And Leicester do a Southampton, and they come knocking, and they say, right, we've just got rid of Marty, and we've now put you in charge. What would be the one thing you would do straight away? Would you do a Southampton and sit back and play on the counter?
Well, just in terms of Marty, I sometimes think if you're getting to the point of saying we'll give him till Christmas or we'll give him the next 3 games, that it's already over at that point. You may as well just sack him now, because what happens if he wins the next 3 games, loses the next 4, then you're just back in the same position. So I think once it starts getting to that point, whether he's a dead man walking yet, that might be a slight stretch. But if he's not here in the new year, I would not be surprised. Then as we've just joked about, you get into who to replace him.
I think the key thing is that technical director, though, James, because if we bring in a technical director, we could be bringing in a technical director saying, look, we need a manager as well. We need someone to work with, because guess what? We're going to have people walking around wearing Leicester City shirts, because you can win a Leicester City shirt in our Christmas giveaway. So don't forget, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click on YouTube. Make sure you click subscribe. It's completely free, and it means you're in the hat to win a Leicester City shirt. And of course, that could be a retro shirt as well. Our Christmas giveaway. Win a Leicester City shirt by following For Fox's Sake on YouTube. You can find the link. Obviously, if you're watching, then you will automatically be on YouTube itself. If not, and you're listening, then do head over to @FFSPod on X, on Twitter, or on Facebook as well. Type in For Fox's Sake, and you can find the links on there dead easy. Or type in For Fox's Sake Podcast on YouTube, and you'll bring it up there and just click subscribe. That's the Christmas giveaway. Anyway,
it's probably worth saying you can have one without the sponsor on it as well.
Yes, you can have one without sponsor on, and you can, of course, have the retro ones as well. So that's that. I think the technical director means an awful lot, because if they're going to bring someone in, surely they want to have their own manager. And I suppose, and the one thing we haven't mentioned so far, thankfully, because by the time this podcast comes out, at any moment now, we could be -6 points. We could be -9 points. We could be on 0. We could have the ability to spend money.
In the Telegraph, it said that the hearing is this week. We might not know until for another month or so.
Lovely.
So that's a bit all over the place. We know that Marty is somewhat of an ideologue. I don't know to what extent he's as ideological as, say, Brendan Rodgers or, Ruben Amorim or someone like that. Ruben Amorim is more committed to 3-5-2 or 3-4-3 than, Khrushchev was to the Soviet Union. It's insane.
Just nod your head, Joe.
What you're seeing at the top level in the Premier League is obviously fluidity right now. How much of that translates down to the Championship is difficult to say. So I don't even necessarily think it's a case of let's move away from post-Guardiola football into something else. I think one of the key things is the team have no resilience emotionally or structurally, like in actually the way that the team is set up. Harry Winks is a great player, and I think Skip's a decent footballer. But I don't think you can play them as a two. And Fez and Vestergaard, at the start of the season, we were saying they're good enough to play Championship football, and they obviously are, but they're not really showing it at the minute. So I think it seems too simplistic to say, let's go to a low block, let's go counter-attacking, and then all of our problems are suddenly going to be sorted because we're not playing out from the back, even though I don't think we should be playing out from the back because, the people playing out from the back are Begovic and Vestergaard, right? As good as they are, they're not capable of doing that. And we're stuck in the past to a certain extent in that we're playing as if we've still got Tielemans, Maddison, Albrighton and Vardy as the spine of the squad, whereas the spine of the squad now is Mabadidi and Daka and Ayew, who all try very hard, but you try very hard when you can't say anything else that's positive.
I think when it comes to trying hard as well, the one thing I will say is that you had an example of a side who are full of confidence against a side who just haven't got the confidence. Yes, they won the last 2 games, but you could just see that when they walked out onto the pitch. And I completely agree. To say you can have a Hamza Chowdhury, Joe, at fullback, and we've seen him there in the past. We've seen him there successfully. We've seen Ricardo there successfully in a role where they move into midfield. Let's not beat about the bush about that. That's the reason why they're there. But with the way Leicester are playing, I can't remember that being effective at all. Now, Ricardo tried to do it against Stoke and it didn't work out, and it was one of the worst games we've seen him play for a long time. And a lot of people were saying, hang on, is this that game where you look at a player and go, oh, hang on, it's caught up with him. The injuries have caught up. Age has caught up with the player, and it might well be we might refer back to that game when he eventually leaves Leicester. But what I'll say to you is that, similar to what James was saying, or actually exactly the same what James was saying, we're stuck into this formation where if we were going to, and for me, what I would do certainly is whoever the fullbacks are, I would employ a Ranieri post November. Listen to the Champions Edition for more. Post November formation, and I would have those fullbacks very limited and say, don't you dare go over the halfway line. I want you to be a fullback, and I want you to be a defensive fullback, and I want you to be one thing. And remember, if you go back, and I'm not saying that everything that Ranieri did, etc., we should just copy, but we are 10 years on. But what did they have in the centre of defence? They had Wes Morgan and they had Robert Huth. And what do we have? We have someone like Walt Vass, but we have a Yannick Vestergaard. What can he do? He can head the ball. And what can Robert Huth do? He heads the ball. So what do you want to do? You want to be very narrow in your back line. And if they can run down the wing, that's fine. Because if they cross over the ball from the byline, we've got a big lad in the centre. That's exactly, and it's very basic football, but that's essentially what Leicester did. And then, but also you have the ability then for your flair players. And what do Leicester have? They have Mavididi, who in the first half, and in the first half of the first half, looked quite bright. And of course, he scored at the weekend, etc. And then you got Fataru, as much as he's kind of lost the ability to kick a ball. They're our main attackers. So they will now have the ability to, they have to come back because the fullbacks are staying back and they can then flourish and hopefully go forward. And then the rest of the team kind of picks itself, the two in midfield and maybe a Decordova-Reid behind someone who then can counter-attack, and that would be Yedaka. Again, it would play to his strengths, a bit like Vardy in that side, etc., etc. So I think that's just a very simplistic way of saying that Leicester should go back to a 4-4-2. But also, it would play to our strengths going forward. It would also hopefully solidify the defence, and it would stop the problems that we've got, and they are mainly at fullback. We saw that with young Aluko. And also, we will see that even more now because we've got some major injury problems in those areas. And I think if you just go back to basic, if you can always play a centre half in that role as well, which I think we'll end up doing because of the lack of players. Joe, you've just been promoted to manager. What do you do?
Yeah, thanks. I'm very thankful to get the job. I've got no idea how I've ended up with it. I was mowing the grass yesterday, but here I am. Yeah, Pete, we actually talked about this way back along on a big show where we were both saying we should be doing 4-4-2 or something like that. It was fairly obvious within a few games of the start of the season that we should be going basic. If you can't, I mean, the tippy-tappy stuff is just getting on everyone's nerves. Last game I was up at the KP was Blackburn, and I was sat next to a lady in her 70s who was telling me, he leant over to me at one point and went, "Oh, and now we have to all suffer the passing from the back." And if Grandma in her 70s can see that it's not working, I mean, it's just one of those things, isn't it? But yeah, the tactics, it was just obvious. It still feels obvious. And this is why we're all getting frustrated with Marty, is because it's very much, look, take it back to basics. What are we doing with, particularly with the defence? Watching Yannick try to run back when someone goes past him. Watching Fats, it wasn't Southampton, it was the Stoke game. He ran around when they scored. He ran every which way but with the player. I don't have to tell anyone that we're sick of seeing Vestergaard and Fast, but they're constantly too high, really. I played five-a-side the other night. We were 4-1 up in our second match, and our main man, our striker, was saying, right, don't press over the halfway line. Don't get tempted. Let's protect what we've got. Let's go deep. We're not going to press. Wait until they come over the halfway line, then press the hell out of them. You know, real basic tactics. This is 5 over 40s blokes on a Monday night. You know, five-a-side stuff. It's really basic football, and that's why I think it's just very obvious. James, you said it. Jono, your point, you're trying to be kind. I get that. Give him till Christmas. I'd say no. Chuck him out. Chuck him in the bin now. I don't think it's going anywhere. It's really not going anywhere. I said it on the preview show as well. The ownership are always very keen to go with managers that are like these safe pair of hands. Like I say, I sit next to a 70-year-old lady near the Cop SK4 in a home match. She's telling me this isn't working. So why can't the hierarchy see that it's not working? Why can't the hierarchy see that they need to change things a little bit? And the other point I'd like to say about is Andy King. I am not one of these fans that thinks just because you've been a good player, just because you've got history with us, you're going to be great. However, what I would say in the pre-season matches that Andy King was in charge, he had us looking pretty good. And I think when Marty did his interview and he said, "Oh, when's the best we've looked?" He said Florentina. That was basically Andy King giving the young guys a go. I just thought we looked all right in pre-season. You know, whether that comes to anything, I don't know. But at this point, Marty's just more of the same. I'm really, really sick of seeing it. I'd like to give Andy King a go. I mean, in my eyes, he's a legend, but that doesn't make him a good manager. But from what I've seen, I could absolutely. He's not going to do any worse, is he?
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. He might not do any worse. Jono, we've got Planet Earth. He says Marty is typically a second division manager, and yet he's tactically inept with a decent squad, and he's ruined for Tarwu and others. He's definitely not getting the best out of Tarwu at the moment. So I think I know what Planet Earth is getting on at here. I was on about Joe's the manager. What would he do? Jono, you're the owner. What do you do? Do you, and I don't know what, I was trying to think of something for save. I'm going save or chop. What are you chopping or are you saving? Are you getting rid of the manager now? Would you want Marty to go now, or are you saving him for a few more games?
I'd be definitely shopping around.
Yep.
That's absolutely for sure. Yeah, I think if I'm the owner, I might put the club up for sale. To be honest, I mean that's another conversation. But
that's true. But would you do you want Marty Cifuentes to be sacked right now? Is the question. So
well,
we'll ask all three. Jono, do you want him sacked now?
I came on saying I'll give him till Christmas, but this conversation's kind of solidified in my head that you're right. I think I can't see where it's going. I can't see whether he's got any ideas other than this tippy-tappy nonsense. I can't see him getting the best out of the squad. Normally, you give them 10 games or so to be able to sort of see an identity stamped on the side. I can't see that. It's a bit like Cooper, a bit, we didn't really sort it kind of, it didn't go anywhere, did it? And so I think yes is probably the answer. I think he needs to probably be moved on. And I would be in the camp of giving Andy King a go in the interim at least. Give him, good few. We're not going up this season. Let's all be frank about that. We aren't going to be going up automatically. If we're lucky, we might scrape a playoff place. And to me, it feels like it's a bit of a reset kind of season, to be honest. I'm hoping in January we get a bit more of a clear out. I'm hoping that maybe one or two maybe come in January as well, certainly in the striker department. So, yeah, I think time is probably up for Marty. And, yeah, Andy King seems like a good option initially, but whether there's anyone else out there, Russell Martin, please, no. Same old.
No,
he's second favourite.
I agree. It's got to be a no, James. Because if you Blank Earth says again, if Marty has the ability to bring in 3 quality players in January, is it worth sticking with him? Well, the problem is the technical director. Who is it? Who are going to bring in? I would think that whatever happens in court needs to be sorted.
The only thing that's kind of putting me off that is the fact that Marty, with all of his, ineptness, we might call it, he hasn't really been given the tools. He hasn't been given a transfer window with a decent. Okay, you could say we brought in maybe JJ as a decent option, but the other options that he's brought in have just been naff. So has he been given the right opportunity? Probably not. But saying that, you have to work with what you've got, and I don't see that he's working well with what he's got. So we need to bring in someone who can work with what they've got.
Yeah, I agree. I think overall, I'm very, say, 50-50 on this. But the one thing I would say is that look at Southampton. Look at who we've just played against. They've got this Tonda Eckhart in, and all of a sudden, they've won 4 games on the bounce. They've completely changed the way that they play. Everyone's full of confidence, and they've gone up the league, and they're looking like they're going to be a top 6 side from now on, and it'll be amazed if they don't give them the job. Now, I'm not saying that's automatically going to happen with an Andy King or someone else behind the scenes at Leicester. Not saying that at all. But we're talking about championship football here, and I've kind of come down on the opinion. My opinion is that Marty Cifuentes could well be a good manager at Leicester City, but it might be that he's the right manager at the wrong time. And if we stick with Marty, there we go. And we see what happens in January. If we bring some players in, if we have the ability to bring some players in, maybe the players that he wants, etc., and then we go from there. But I would look at Leicester and go, what happens if we keep Marty? What's the worst that could happen? Well, the form roughly continues how it is, or we go on a losing streak and he gets sacked anyway. What's the downside in sacking him? Yes, we're going to have to pay out some money, but are we going to lose? Is the form going to disappear as well? I just don't see that. So I'm kind of down on the side of, I don't see the problem in sacking him. I don't see the problem in doing what Southampton have done, and hopefully giving the players a fresh lease of life, and hopefully someone coming in, an Andy King or someone else, and not because of them, but they can bring a different light on this side. They've seen the team from the sidelines. They probably would have their own opinions anyway. They might be doing exactly what this Tonda guy's probably been doing again. I did it earlier. Like, why aren't we doing this? And I've kind of come down on the side of, I don't want Marty Cifuentes to be sacked, but I just think, why not? Because I'm not saying things can't get worse, but I don't think we're going to lose anything by doing it. So, and also come January, we then have the ability possibly to appoint someone if things haven't changed, or it turns out that the interim managers are not quite up to it in a style of what we've had before in the Premier League when we've changed manager. James, sack Marty Cifuentes now or keep him for a little bit longer? What do you reckon?
I would probably sack him. I mean, it's worth remembering that the Championship is so competitive that we are only 2 points off the playoffs at the moment. I think if we were to get a 9 to 12 point deduction, I think it's most likely going to be 9, which will put us right. I don't think it puts in the bottom 3, but certainly right down there. I would be very nervous of him being in charge of a relegation battle. And not just because his trainers are way too white. I think there are some good managers out there, whether it be Michael Carrick or, Ange, let's get Ange in, just go for it.
Flat attack. I tell you what though, I saw Jono nod his head, and I think Joe will probably nod his head as well. I completely agree with that point, Joe. I mean, sack him. I think you're probably going to say yes, but I agree with what James said there. if we do get a 9-point deduction and we're down alongside the Oxfords, etc., or borderline with Norwich, on the cusp of relegation in the zone, I wouldn't be too sure that he is the guy. Maybe the confidence of those senior players, which we know is as fragile as me walking on some ice that's formed in -1 degree. It really is fragile, the confidence at Leicester. I just don't think Marty's got it in him. And he's obviously got plus points, but I don't think he's got it in him to turn that ship around. I think if we're right down there with the points deduction, I think those players' heads will drop even further and they'll be looking at other clubs even more than probably what they are now and maybe want to leave in January, which I don't think is a bad thing anyway. But are you a sack now, Joe?
Yeah, well, I said it earlier on. Yeah, chuck him in the bin. See you later. He's like Tamari or something like that, and he's just going to come on, pass it around, lose it. That's how the games are going to go. It's fairly obvious, but let's be clear about why we all think this, or why we're all on Marty's case. It's because there's been zero improvement since the first match of the season. I was there for the first match of the season. We got away with it against Sheffield Wednesday. There's been no difference. We've been relying on worldies, good goals, individual brilliance throughout the whole thing. We've hardly had many shots on goal. The defence, every team, whether it's Southampton the other day, one of the best form teams in the division, or whether it was Oxford, they still cut through the defence like a knife through butter. There's been zero. His team selections have been bizarre, awful. No one actually sort of knows what he's thinking a lot of the time. These are the reasons why we're all saying, right, it's time's up already. There's been zero improvement at all. The best we can say for him is that he's finally worked out that he should put Patson Dagger up front. Who got us? There's just nothing good to say, is there? Really, like us, me and you, Pete, old boys are shouting for 4-4-2, dinosaurs, going on and on about this stuff. It's just these are all the reasons. We haven't just come up with this. We're not just all annoyed because we're 10th in the championship. We all expected, we all knew that we've got some crap players and blah blah blah, but for me, he's dug his own grave a bit with this. He hasn't really done anything or improved anything. All he's done is sort of stand there and say the right things with his interviews, and that's it. So yeah, for me, it's just I've got no patience for these things anymore. I've seen enough bad managers at Leicester in the last couple of years. Bin him off. Try and find someone who's got some new ideas about football.
Yep, I agree. And I think that's a pretty good place to leave the podcast. Now, remember our Christmas giveaway, win a Leicester City shirt, including the retro shirts and including the shirt without the sponsor on. Do listen and watch back to our BC Shame episode that me and James did. Well, James, really, he did all the hard work. But make sure you do subscribe to our YouTube channel, because that means that you've entered our Christmas giveaway. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and it means that you're in the draw live on December the 9th to win a Leicester City shirt, including the retro shirts or the one without the BC game on the front. Or, of course, if you are a parent of a child, or maybe you're an uncle or an auntie, etc., and you want to get the kid something for Christmas and you want the full kit, then, of course, you can have that as well. So do make sure you subscribe. And also, guess what? Tell other people. Say, guess what? Do you want to win a Leicester shirt? Subscribe to the channel, go on YouTube and type in For Fox's Sake podcast, and you'll be able to find us on there, and tell them to hit subscribe, and it means that they're entered in the competition. Fantastic. They have to watch the show, but they can do if they want. Turn on the notifications, make sure you do like us. It means that you'll be notified every time that we do go live, and we will go live with Rob Hayes and the preview before our next game. Also, and we are a couple of days away, aren't we, James? We think was it the 28th with Vardy against Manchester United. So we will be doing we will be recording the Champions Edition October and November, talking all things October and November in our league winning season, and that includes Vardy's 11, it's heaven and all that sort of thing against Manchester United. It's going to get emotional. We're going to be recording that hopefully on Friday, and that means it will be out at the weekend, maybe a lovely Sunday morning. Drop into your podcast listening area of choice, whether it's on Spotify or Apple, or of course watching on YouTube. So that's going to be great going over those. I've got plenty of notes, and again, it starts to really get interesting that season. It moves from being messy to being rather exciting. One note I made on that Champions on my notes for the Champions is the last game of November. I think it was the last time we went from being, oh, we're doing actually quite well, isn't Vardy scoring all the time, brilliant. And then I think at the start of December, it changed to, hang on, we might actually qualify for Europe here, or maybe do something better. I think November to December is that change. Once Vardy's record is finished, all of a sudden, our eyes turned onto something else. So make sure you look out for that. And of course, do watch the BC Shame episode. Plenty have, and we've got a lot of feedback on that as well. So really, really good. Final thoughts, anyone? Anything else on the big show? I can't think of anything. I'm looking forward to the preview with Rob Hayes. James, anything else?
In regards to the BC Shame episode, there has been some new regulations on gambling announced in today's budget by Rachel Reeves, mainly an increase on the duty levy that online casinos want to have to pay, which will bring them in line with land-based betting and sports-based betting. So if you watch that episode and you're interested in that, I would check that out. There's reports on it in The Guardian.
Yeah, it's a really good episode, and it's very informative as well. And I've listened back, and I think it's done in a really good way. I was really happy that the way that we did it, and mainly you, James, because I think if you know nothing about BC Game and who they are, we both inform, and also we do give our opinion, but it's very informative as well. Yeah, there's quite a lot actually added on. In the budget on basically online betting, etc. Not levied on the sport, it's on the actual betting side when it comes to online as well, which I'm personally quite happy with. Joe, anything else?
Yeah, I got one more thing. Pete, that picture that you've done for the Christmas giveaway, Mavadidi needs a Christmas hat on. Can we he should be wearing a Christmas hat, please.
He should. He should. I mean, I'm just rather happy I got one that he hasn't got a background. But yes, there it is again. If we need reminding, it's quite nice. Actually, it's good.
I sent an email to a very angry email to the media department for Fox Egg. So yeah, they'll get that sorted.
And Jono, I'll bring you back in. There you go, Jono. Last hurrah then, as we tick towards the hour mark on this let off steam episode of the big show. Your the final thoughts.
Yeah. For me, I'm still looking forward to going down on Saturday. It's an early kickoff. Sheffield United. I'm still somewhat optimistic we'll get a result. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing and keeps Marty in a job a bit longer, I don't know. But I'm looking forward to it. Taking my lad down on Saturday. Doing under eights training on Saturday morning and then rushing from there straight down to the stadium. So looking forward to it. And hopefully we can get a result. Well,
I've got half an idea that if we do lose against Sheffield United, then I think there will be I think it will be curtains. The next game after that is away at a pretty informed derby as well. So yeah, I think it might be curtains. But that's it for the big show. Do make sure you subscribe, enter that competition, win a Leicester City shirt. Make sure you tell your friends as well. If you know someone who would like to win a Leicester City shirt, then make sure you tell them to subscribe. That's it for the big show. Look out for the Champions Edition as well, and look out for the preview with Rob Hayes, talking all things Leicester against Sheffield United this weekend. Thanks for watching. Thanks for contributing. And we'll see you next time on the back of hopefully a win against Sheffield United if they're a bit fortunate. But yeah, we might need a bit of luck. I'm not looking forward to this at all. Enjoy the game, Jono.